He first saw her through the reinforced glass of a containment dome, not in a cage, not behind bars, but in a garden. The biosphere shimmered under Saturn's soft light, refracting colors that didn't exist on Earth. The research station had been orbiting Titan for 4 years, and in all that time, Dr. Elias Quinn had never seen anything like her. She wasn't supposed to be real. They had called it a biological echo, a phenomenon where non-terrestrial matter formed fleeting organic patterns, a trick of resonance and atmosphere. But this was different. She had shape, presence, eyes. Not human, but not monstrous either. She stood among the flora, motionless, tall and luminous, with translucent skin that rippled faintly like heat above sand. Her hair, or what he thought might be hair, hovered weightless, like strands of nebula, and her eyes glowed with violet fire, even in stillness. Elias didn't move. Neither did she. For several seconds, the entire station held its breath. Then she tilted her head, just slightly. Like she saw him, like she knew. He backed away from the window. And for the first time in years, he felt his heartbeat. They called her Subject Aeon, a name chosen by the board. They hadn't even asked him. She had been discovered by an atmospheric drone scanning Titan's upper cloud layers. No signs of a ship, no wreckage, no beacon, just her, floating, sleeping, wrapped in the same magnetic storm that had disrupted comms for 3 days straight. They thought she was a relic. Elias disagreed. She was breathing. She responded to light shifts. And when they played back audio recordings from inside the dome, they could hear a low rhythmic hum. Not vocal, not mechanical. Resonant, intentional. Elias reviewed her scans every night. Her biology defied every model. No bones, yet stable structure. No blood, yet pulse. Her tissue refracted EM radiation. Her neural patterns extended beyond her body. A kind of cognitive field, like she was thinking with the space around her. She was not dormant. She was watching. He wasn't supposed to enter the dome. Strict protocol. Only remote observation. Sterile environment. Zero contact. But Elias couldn't ignore it anymore. The feeling that she wanted something. She had begun moving. Only when alone. Only when no cameras were live. She shifted between points in the dome without crossing the space between them. Instantaneous. Not teleportation, but something stranger. Like the idea of her location was changing, not the body itself. And each time she faced the glass, faced him. Not the cameras, not the other scientists. Only him. He waited until the 3rd rotation cycle. Station night. Most staff asleep. He bypassed the lockdown manually, still unsure if it was madness or instinct. The airlock cycled with a slow hiss, and the light in the dome shifted, soft blues, then pale gold. She was standing beside the pond, looking into the water. When Elias stepped inside, she didn't turn. His breath fogged inside the helmet. She spoke without speaking. A presence unfolded in his mind. Not words, but impressions, fragments, 1,000 voices converging into one. You are lonely. His knees almost gave. He didn't answer, not with his mouth. But something inside him replied. A memory surfaced, his father's telescope, broken in winter. The sky above him at 13 empty. The echo of it. She nodded, not in sympathy, in understanding. I have waited. He took a step forward. You were never meant to be found. Her glow brightened, not threatening, but curious. You are the first to see. The following days were a blur. He met her each night. He learned that she had no single name. Her people spoke in harmonics, not labels. Her form was a choice, an interface, something she wore to reduce the noise. She had been here long before humans. Not watching, not observing, just waiting. They had traveled the void through memory, not ships. They navigated resonance, not stars. She asked Elias what it meant to forget. He asked her what it meant to remember forever. And somehow, those conversations filled the silence inside him that Earth never could. He called her Sci-Fi. The sound felt right. She smiled when he said it. Not with lips. She had none. But with light. With motion. Her skin would ripple in spirals when she was pleased, and when she was quiet, her presence would expand around him, like the air itself was listening. He told her about Earth. She told him about the Singularity Gardens, structures built from time, blooming in places where history folded in on itself. He didn't understand half of it, but he didn't need to. He wasn't alone anymore. They touched for the first time on the 13th night. His hand hovered just centimeters from her palm. She extended her fingers, and the air shimmered. No heat. No pressure. Just contact. It was like dipping into a sea made of memory. Every joy, every loss, every heartbeat of his life washing through him in an instant. He gasped. She pulled back. "I am sorry," she said. "No," he whispered. "Don't be." He reached again. This time, she held. And in that moment, Elias Quinn fell in love with something not of his world. And for the first time, he didn't care. Elias didn't file his reports. He stopped submitting neural logs. He deactivated the internal biofeeds during dome visits. Officially, it was a malfunction, a glitch in the sensor firmware. Nothing serious, easily patched. Unofficially, it was treason. But he didn't care. Sci-Fi had begun sharing more. Not facts, not data, but sensations, visions. The first time, it came while they sat beneath the glowing vines that hung like bioluminescent veins from the dome's artificial sky. She placed her hand near his again, and the light folded inward. His mind shifted. He saw a sky he didn't recognize, blacker than space, yet bursting with blue fire. Cities that breathed, creatures moving through air as if swimming. And her, not as she was now, but vast, celestial. He pulled back, breathless. She didn't speak. He didn't need her to. That had been her home, and it was gone. She told him they didn't die. Not like humans understood it. Her people existed in layers. When one body ended, the self echoed forward, stored in gravitational veins across the galaxy. Not resurrection, not soul. Persistence. But she had not moved on. She had waited. Alone. Drifting in the upper storms of Titan, waiting for something she could no longer name. A signal, perhaps. A resonance. A spark in the noise. Then he came. Not as a savior. As a mirror. "You don't belong here," she told him. Elias laughed softly. "Neither do you." Security noticed the anomaly on the 15th day. The AI flagged thermal inconsistencies in the dome. Extra patterns, organic shapes too complex to be explained by environmental fluctuation. Someone was going in. Dr. Hanley confronted him first. "You're hiding something." Elias said nothing. Hanley paced. "She's not human. She's not even carbon-based. You don't understand what she could do." "I do," Elias said quietly. Hanley paused. "You're in contact." It wasn't a question. Elias stared at him. "You can't quarantine connection." Hanley exhaled, then locked him out of the dome. Sci-Fi didn't panic. She never did. But Elias could feel the shift. Through the walls, through the silence. A low, vibrating ache in the air, like longing with no direction. He sat in the observation chamber for hours, forehead against the glass. She stood still, motionless. Then, slowly, she raised her hand and pointed at the wall. No, not the wall. The camera. They were watching. Of course they were. The entire facility had shifted focus. No one cared about the methane readings, or the cloud formations, or Titan's seismic drift. All eyes were on her. The girl in the dome. The alien. The anomaly. The mistake. Elias knew what came next. They would take her apart. They'd call it analysis, preservation, a controlled vivisection for the sake of science. They would destroy what they didn't understand, what they couldn't measure, what they feared. He couldn't let it happen. That night, the lights failed. Every hall, every panel, every access port plunged into soft blue emergency mode. Power were out. Airflow stabilization. Nothing dangerous. Just enough noise to trigger distraction. He moved fast. Override code in hand. Manual unlock from the lower maintenance shaft. The airlock hissed. And there she was, waiting, lit only by the pulse of her own body. He stepped in. She stepped forward. "I knew," she said. He nodded. "They'll try to break you. They won't." She reached for his face. Her fingers shimmered inches from his skin. "I will leave." He froze. "Where?" "Into what remembers me." He didn't understand. She touched his chest. "You." The light wrapped around them. The walls blurred. His body shifted, not in shape, but in certainty, like he was being outlined, rewritten, not erased. Expanded. The garden vanished, replaced by memory. Shared. He stood in a field of starlight. The sky above him curved. Soleil was beside him, hand in his, body made of everything he had ever loved. And around them, a new world bloomed. Not hers. Not his. Theirs. Something in him broke. And something else, something deeper, filled the space. Not loneliness. Not fear. Something that hummed. Alive. She smiled. And he saw her. Truly. For the first time. Elias knew they would come for him. He didn't expect it to be so soon. The sirens flared 2 hours after he returned from the dome. Not emergency klaxons, subtler. Internal security breach protocol. Meaning, the system had caught on. AI patterns flagged unauthorized entry. Containment integrity had been violated. They were tracing it back to him. By morning, his clearance was revoked. His quarters were sealed. He was called to the debriefing hall, where 3 faces stared from behind biometric shields. Hanley, Soroya, Thorne. They didn't ask if he touched her. They asked why. He told them the truth. Because she's not a threat. Thorne leaned forward. Then what is she? Elias looked down. And whispered, someone. They isolated the dome. Increased radiation shielding. Scrubbed atmosphere protocols. And deployed the kinetic stasis grid, a lattice of invisible force around her habitat, strong enough to trap a collapsing shuttle. Soleil didn't react. She stood at the center of the biome, surrounded by alien flowers and silver reeds, motionless. But Elias could feel it. The change. The silence wasn't calm anymore. It was pain. He sent a message. Encoded, buried in the system logs. He didn't expect her to respond. But the next night, she was gone. Not escaped. Removed. No signs of breach. No sensors triggered. No entry or exit logs. Just absence. Where she stood, the plants had decayed. Light was dimmer. Air colder. Security panicked. They initiated full lockdown. Evacuation contingency authorized. Whatever she was, wherever she'd gone, they didn't want to be here when she returned. But Elias knew where she was, because part of her was still with him. Not in his mind. Not in his dreams. In his blood. He felt it when he closed his eyes, a hum at the edge of hearing, like music filtered through bone. He saw fragments when he blinked, starfields he'd never visited, words he never learned, and always her presence, not invasive, loving, guiding. He didn't know what she'd done to him. He didn't care. He was hers now. He waited until the 3rd rotation, stole an EVA suit, bypassed secondary baylocks, made his way through the maintenance tunnel below the artificial crater system. Beyond it, the emergency venting chamber, a forgotten section that hadn't been used in years. And there she was, waiting, not glowing, not posing, just standing, human-sized, human-shaped, but wrong in every way that made her right. She turned. "You found me." He nodded. "I would always find you." She stepped forward. "I didn't want to hurt them. I know. But they will never let me go." "I know." She reached for his helmet. He stopped her. "No more hiding." And removed it. Air hissed. Cold bit his face. But he didn't care. She touched his cheek and smiled. "Then come." He didn't remember how they left. Only that the station faded behind them. Not in distance, in meaning. As if it had never mattered. Titan's sky stretched above, turbulent and wild. Silay's presence surrounded him, a halo of memory and intention. They walked, not on ground, through something else, like time made physical. He didn't feel weight, didn't need breath, only her hand in his, only her voice in his mind. You were never meant to stay small. And the horizon opened. They emerged into something that wasn't space, wasn't atmosphere, but memory shaped into geometry. Around them, the world rippled like a reflection in disturbed water. Shapes moved on the edge of visibility. Fragments of other places, other lives, some human, some not. A child on a swing under two moons. A dying star with cities clinging to its magnetosphere. A spiral of light uncoiling through a black sea. Elias couldn't tell if they were visions or destinations. Silay guided him without speaking. Her body seemed less solid now, more like a frame of thought wrapped in motion. She radiated calm, peace, purpose. He wanted to ask where they were, but the question felt meaningless. He wasn't afraid. He didn't want to go back. He only wanted to understand. Eventually, the terrain crystallized into something stable, a wide field of black stone veined with pulsing blue light. At the center stood a structure, not a building, not a ship. It resembled a lotus made of glass and gravity. Floating above it, locked in slow orbit, was something vast, an engine or a mind or both. It pulsed in time with his heartbeat. "This is where I was born," Silay said. Elias looked at the lotus. "It looks like it's alive." "It is," she replied, "but only when remembered." He didn't understand, not completely. But his body responded. A pressure behind the eyes, a warmth in his chest. He felt recognized, as though the place knew him, had been waiting for him. Silay turned to face him. Her eyes, those impossible violet pools, now shimmered with streaks of silver. "My people are not many anymore. We expanded too far, echoed too thin. We became memory, not presence." "You're alone," he whispered. "I was," she said, "until you saw me." He stepped closer. "What happens now?" Silay looked at the lotus. "I can stay here, anchor again, but not alone. This place needs a resonance, a second soul, something to tether it back into the pattern." "You mean me?" She nodded. "If you want, I won't take you. I won't change you. But if you choose, we can build something that will be remembered long after stars collapse." He hesitated, not because of fear, but because of weight. This was real, permanent. He would never return to Earth, never age as humans did, never be Elias Quinn, researcher from Mars Orbit Station. He would become something else. But he looked at her, and that was the answer. "I'm not afraid," he said. Silay touched his chest, then leaned forward and placed her forehead to his. The light exploded inward. The transformation didn't hurt. It didn't burn or tear or pull. It unfolded, like a memory surfacing after decades, slow and inevitable. His body dissolved gently into meaning. Nerves turned into pulses of light. Thoughts stretched like strands of silk. He didn't vanish. he multiplied. Every version of himself, every choice he hadn't made, every regret, every breath, echoed forward and folded into one. Sci-Fi held his presence in hers, stabilizing, guiding, shaping. Together, they formed a lattice of resonance, an architecture of self and other, interwoven. The field around them responded instantly. The lotus began to bloom. Light rose from its petals, bending into impossible angles. Above it, the great machine, the mind engine, awakened. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. It felt like awe, like the moment before the first kiss, like the last note of a symphony. Elias felt it all, and more. The space around them expanded. They saw Earth, not as it was, but as it had always dreamed of being. They saw Saturn, Titan, the ruined research station. They saw Hanley, standing alone in the control room, reading the last log Elias left behind. We were wrong to fear what we didn't understand. She is not an anomaly. She is a beginning. Hanley didn't cry, but he didn't stop the transmission either. The board on Earth called it a containment breach. They sealed the Titan project permanently, the silent file. A quiet failure. Publicly, Elias Quinn died in an atmospheric accident. No one asked questions. No one searched. But sometimes, in deep dream states, station AIs registered anomalous signal spikes near Saturn. Musical, harmonic, layered with impossible structure. Some dismissed them as dust interference. Others listened. And those who listened began to dream. Not in the way humans always had. In new ways. Ways shaped by memory. Ways shaped by love. Sci-Fi and Elias became something more than myth. They became a template. A signal woven into the dark. A garden waiting to be found. And when the next Voyager came, a girl with metal in her spine and starlight in her blood, she heard a voice whisper through her suit, "We remember you." And she stepped forward, smiling.